Yo! Something the channel is known for the most is its approach to pressure and mix-ups, whether universal or character specific. It's been a while, but here's another tip for y'all looking at shimmies and pressure. I go over this a bit in my Vegito pressure guide, but here's finally its own in-depth video. Now, before we get into this, remember that pressure is all about establishing respect with frame traps, then abusing this respect when they realize it's safer to block. Shimmies is a way to abuse this respect to make them crack. But if they're trash and always just mash, just frame trap and simple baits work all day. So shimmies basically manipulate the space between you and your opponents in order to accomplish certain things. Usually when we think about shimmies, we think of this back and forth movement, but with this general definition it can be broken down into 5 specific components, even ones that involve reducing distance. We'll go over what they are, when to use them, and what they accomplish, starting off with the most common form of shimmies, rocking. I'll refer to this movement as rocking since you go back and forth. The reason why you go forward and backwards is because you move in and out of their range, which baits them into thinking they could hit you but whiff. Especially useful if you have longer reaching normals to whiff punish. They make them impatient on defense, seeing you leave these gaps in your pressure that they could have used to leave, so it baits out options by allowing them to engage when you're ready for it. Especially seeing you rock, it induces doubts and panic in defenders since, bro, why aren't you just block stringing me? This pattern also allows you to change paces to get quick things like dash DRs, that's very hard to tech, slow down for very delayed frame traps, or even fully pause your own pressure for them to engage without them even realizing. Since you can vary the duration of your rocking, they'll never be sure of just how big the gap is and will always second guess themselves. Not only that, but when they see you shift forward, it looks like you're about to hit them, which further pins them down mentally and confuses them. And for some characters, it allows you to set up other manual spacing strings, but we'll focus more on these in the micro walk section coming up. Speaking of micro walks, consider this form of shimmy as the foundation that can be combined with other forms to achieve different things. So on top of rocking, you can add dashes too, but this is advanced. If their defense is strong enough to still lock things down against these change of pace and bait tactics, this is when layering shimmies together can be interesting. So what are the other ones? Backdash is probably the most basic one that you see pretty often at every level. Since you literally retreat, this is a bigger visual cue that gives them a big gap to escape. These are safest when used during plus frames or on -2 buttons since even if they mash it, you're safe. Unless if it's with a long normal, since that's one of the downsides with these. But yeah, you can risk it whenever if you want to take the risk too. This is where your long normals can come in to hit their escape attempts or read them. Creating the space also allows you to bait out reversals. Well, most of them. And if you're pressuring them and notice they want to just tag, which you can see if this X mark on their assist keeps appearing, this makes it a great way to let it come for a 2H. But unless you have a quick poke, it can be harder to punish reflex on reaction. And from their offensive side, they may think this is a good time for them to fire a poke, and it may look like it's their turn to finally start, but they will get countered since they fell for your trap. It also helps to alter frame data, which we'll talk about once we go over micro walks as well. If they don't do anything, another common way to get back in is with an IED to get an overhead in, which hits even harder if they stay planted because then they kinda just enter a frozen phase of wondering why you backed off and why they didn't use that to escape, and boom. But if you do this too much, it makes it an easy counter like 2Hs, or they can just dash under. So just continuing with a normal is better. What's also nice is that it can help restore your assist since it's a bigger break in your pressure. And you can just decide to return to neutral and reset it that way too. You can advance this with a forward dash, so let's talk about that. Dash blocks are great and have been on the channel a lot for neutral, pressure, and offensive purposes. As a pressure shimmy, it's very similar to a backdash, but it's much safer. It can only be used at -2 or better, but even if they do any type of reversal or long range mash, you'll be safe. This is why it's used often after jabs that have good data at the start of the string, and it lets you fully safely see if they're willing to mash, where you'd block, then you can just frame trap them next time when you pressure them again. And since it's so safe, it can be repeated to see how much their mental can take as well before they crack. But what's nicer about this is that instead of creating space, it reduces space. Although the purpose of this is similar to a backdash, its effect is different because it's adding more pressure, instead of telling them, oh, you have room to work with and it might be their turn. Seeing someone dash in your face approaching you usually makes opponents feel even less uncomfortable blocking, as you're advancing in front of them for free. It's already annoying when someone shortens the gap from full screen to in front of you, but now imagine at this range. Basically, this is a way to drain their defensive will to make them crack for your frame traps, since they'd view this as a bigger disrespect to their defense compared to a backdash. Not only that, but you get access to very hard to react things at this closer range, like dash DR that we said earlier, which is super quick, but also the same IAD hits a lot faster from this range than the backdash. You're within reach to even go for a 6M. And if your character has these, you can go for very strong left or rights with an instant cross up or a tight same side option. Whereas with a backdash, you can cross up with an IAD, you can only stay same side. And again, all this while being safe. But it is much tighter than the backdash shimmy, so it depends on what type of gap you want and feeling you want to create, and also your own execution. Micro walks is a slight walk back by holding back and pushing your normals, like 5L, to keep putting you further and further away. It's similar to backdash in that this creates space in a tight manner. You can delay your neck jab to create as much distance as you want, or keep your frame traps as tight as you want to stay safe. This makes it a bit hard to confirm though, unless you have a multi-hitting normal like Vegito 5L. So the point of this is to create distance so you can pressure from further away, as we spoke about, but to also alter your frame data and get into specific pressure strings. Usually backdashing is either not enough to alter frame data, or it gives you too much space. But micro walks can be used for more manual desired distances, and even to extend the backdash space even more. With this, you can turn 6Ms plus on block, so characters with slow jabs can still win and continue their turn in case they block a 6M by avoiding the whole clash scenario, or you can just even use these plus frames regularly. You can further space out your long range normals to make them more safe on block, so you can actually reset your pressure safely, or bait something at a point that would usually lose to reversals or mashes, so that really throws them off guard. It also makes it harder for them to know when they can challenge, since their window becomes smaller due to having better frame data, so your cancel windows are tighter. If you can make a super negative medium -2 on block, you get access to the safest dash block shimmy, which can really throw people off guard as well, since it comes from a medium and not a jab. And this lets you set up strings like Vegito's sweet spot pressure strings that let you pressure very safely while being able to cover various options at the same time. On top of that, you can micro walk to an ambiguous distance that makes it very hard to tell if you'll cross up if you IAD. Even though IADs from this distance are slower, it's more effective against respectful blockers due to how ambiguous it is, so you basically create your own 50-50. But again, it is slower and riskier. You can advance this even more by using super jump IADs into floats and fast falls, and assist of course. And from this distance, they really can't tell if you'll land behind them or in front of them. And again, even combine them with your previous shimmies to further layer your pressure, change of rhythm, and more. As you can see, shimmies accomplish a lot, but what it's mostly meant for is draining the opponent, their mental strength and willingness to block, so that our medium frame traps can actually land more. We want our pressure to rely on these medium frame traps because this is the easiest way to get the highest damage and combos for the least amount of resources. So yeah, you want them to match, you just need to rotate in your frame traps at the right times. This one is an advanced bonus for just that. We'll call it advancing. Advancing shimmy is advanced because I've only seen it work at very high levels, or I've only used it on the best defenders I've played against. But basically, if you for real can't make them budge, can't open them up because they're just so good at reacting, then you can just dash forward and hold it. The longer you keep dashing in their face, the more likely they will be to do something. Because it's just crazy seeing this, especially if you're mid-screen, since you can use this to just pin them in the corner for free, no combo needed. This is very risky because you're leaving yourself wide open while pushing them, not even blocking, so it's very disrespectful, and they can get a free hit at any time. This is what you want though, you want them to finally do something. If you time it right, you can get a huge hit, and it sets a different pace for the rest of the game in your future pressure encounters, so it's a way to turn a great passive defender into an angry masher. Win. I've literally seen Kasuga do multiple of these in a single pressure string, varying from slow to long to slow dashes, so that's pretty interesting too. And even if long dashes doesn't break them, and they don't end up mashing or trying to escape, then you know you're in a good place for unreactable command grabs or super fate mix-ups like IAD nothing low. Remember, shimmies are a pressure tool to help enhance your overall pressure with everything else. Thank you for watching, hope you learned something new. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.